Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Monica here with a video on my winter decks. So these are decks that I use predominantly, or maybe not predominantly, maybe it'll be more correct to say that I use them quite a bit more throughout the winter months, which is the period that I'm in now here in Australia. So July, when I'm recording now, is like the middle of winter. And okay, I do live in the tropics, so you know, those of you in America or Europe watching this, yes, our winter is nothing like your winter. But you know, we do get some pretty cold nights. Last week we had a few nights where it got down to about 4 to 6 degrees Celsius. That's pretty cold for this part of the world. I mean, during the day it rises up again to like, you know, mid to high 20s Celsius. So it's, you know, days are absolutely beautiful at this time of year. But the onset of colder nights kind of makes me, I don't know, there's something about the diminishing light, the cooler temperatures, lots of hot teas, and a more introspective time period. And so the decks that I have, and I've got 6 tarot and 2 oracle and 2 Lenormand, they kind of reflect that in a way. And for some of you that might not be the case. You might not feel cold to these decks at all in wintertime, or in, you know, more introspective phases in your life, and that's okay. You know, obviously this is like kind of like my practice and my perspective and what I'm drawn to. So without further ado, let's get cracking. So the first one I want to share, we'll start with tarot first. The first one I want to share is the Somnia Tarot. I think this is an incredible deck, to be honest, and it is right up my alley. The photography, the way it was done, just the energetic feel of this deck. I don't know, there's something about it that it's kind of like very much going deeper within. This deck invites stillness, it invites like a pause, it invites you to take your time and to not rush things and to not be superficial and to face some things that perhaps are buried or that you might not want to face. That's kind of how I feel about this deck. The color choice, or the filters perhaps I should say, because it is a photographic deck, they kind of bring in that energy of winter to me, right? Lots of blues and grays and slate, charcoal, black. Excuse me. You know me, I gotta have my tea. Yeah, so the color palette, it's kind of more subdued as well. I don't know, I'm forever drawn to this deck. To be honest, even when it's not winter, when I really feel like I've got to do some inner work, or I feel like I've got to just pause when I want to leave the world outside behind, and yeah, that's the deck for that for me. So this is the Somnia Tarot. It was created by Nicholas Bruno, and I'm kicking myself that I didn't get this deck as a package with a book. I think the book would be quite valuable to have. I don't have the book. So I think if you like what you see here and you don't have this deck, personally I would recommend trying to obtain a copy with a book. The reason I don't have the book is because I bought the second hand, and that's the only thing that was. It was just the deck. And being all the way here in Australia, you kind of make do with what pops up now and then, because shipping prices are atrocious. Like, they've just gone crazy again. So anyhow, so that's the first one. That's the Somnia Tarot. I think, yeah, a really brilliantly executed deck. That's how I would summarize this one. Next up, I've got another one that is, in my opinion, excellently well done, and that's the Baroque. Sorry, the Bellipok, not the Baroque, the Bellipok Tarot. And I just saw that the sticker on the box is starting to peel off, which is most displeasing, I think, because, you know, once they do that, I mean, I'm gonna have to get some glue and stick it back in. But anyway, otherwise the box is fantastic. You know, it's just a really, really well made Kickstarter that I backed a while back, and again, the colors and the energy of this deck is very much fitting with winter, in my opinion. So it does come with a guidebook, excuse me, a really, really well done guidebook. As you can tell, it's got color images of all the cards, not just the major arcana, but every single card is featured in here in color, and that's yeah, a really, really nice touch. So this deck is made using collage art, I believe, and it's taken from images of the time, from newspapers or ads, you know, advertisements of the time, things like that of the Bellipok period. I absolutely love this deck. I've got to say kudos to the creators for just bringing to life something just absolutely yeah, astonishing and really, really well made. Cardstock is excellent, and I don't know why this for me is more of a winter deck. I mean, it's got plenty of color in it, but as you can see, if I fan it out, it's a particular palette. I wonder if the designer, the creator who did this, has got a background in design, because it's done really, really nicely. But you do get lots of cards like this, where the colors, they're not, you know, pastels and bright summer hues or anything like that. Like, you do get some color, like I said, but it's, I don't know, for me, this is very much a deck I bust out in winter. I don't use this a lot, to be honest. Like, it's an excellent deck, but I just, I don't know, I don't feel drawn to do a lot of readings with this deck. Certainly not a, you know, what I call a client deck or anything like that. But I do love the aesthetic of it. I love the way it's been done, the choices of the images that were chosen are really, really well done, and the way it's been put together. It's a pleasure to shuffle and to work with in order to bring it out. So it's one of my lesser used decks, I guess is what I'm trying to say, but nonetheless it's one that I absolutely love. Because sometimes it just happens, like, you really love a deck, but you might not work with it a lot, and that's the case here. I really love this deck, but I just don't work with it a lot. But when I do pull it out, it makes it really special. So yeah, it's got, to me, this will always have a bit of a more wintry vibe. And I think overall the color palette tends that way. Some people might disagree. Here's an example, you know, the Strength card is just so beautiful and golden. And same with cards like the Three of Pentacles. But I don't know. It's just what I'm drawn to, you know, and just where my head is at with this deck. So yes, that is the Belle Epoque Tarot. This was created by, excuse me, I cannot recall the top of my head, Orlin Christoph. So Orlin, absolutely love this deck. Amazing work. Okay, next up, let quickly just slide everything back together, because otherwise my desk becomes a big mess once I'm done with these videos. So next up, all right, another less used deck, and I'm actually contemplating rehoming this one. It's the Interim Tarot. So this is predominantly a black and white deck, as you will soon see. Let me grab it out of the box. Fantastic box, really well done. Comes with a booklet as well. Quite insightful, lots of information in it. But I don't know. I just don't work with this deck enough, and I'm kind of wondering whether I should. Well, I have already thought about rehoming it, and every time I want to do that, I kind of put it back into my collection. Because I don't want to sell a deck and then find out 6 months later that I really miss it, and then look at buying it again, because that's just silly. And I think it was Carrie from Carrie's Mystical Musings that kind of mentioned the same thing, like maybe it wasn't her. Apologies if it wasn't. My memory is, so. Comme ci, comme ça. Yeah, I once I let it go, I don't want to buy it again. And because this is from overseas, like 90% of the decks that, when you're in Australia, virtually most of your collection comes from America or Europe. And therefore, right now, the shipping costs, like, they're insane. Like, I looked at getting the Tulku Oracle, which I saw on Westar Tarot, and the shipping was 100 Australian dollars on top of the cost of the deck, on top of the cost of the book. I mean, geez, I love what I see when I see that deck, but $100 for shipping is it's just obscene. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is, this is a deck that I am on and off. I have an on and off relationship with it. I think the artwork is fantastic. I mean, I love this full. Look at it. Amazing. It's just so well done. And I think just because I don't use it very often, then perhaps I should just keep it in, that part of my collection of lesser used decks that I still love and that I really don't want to rehome. I think some of these cards are very original, very new and fresh take on tarot. Some of it is a bit kind of weird, to be honest, and I like that. A bit of weirdness is fine. So yeah, as you can see, the lack of color in this deck, just to me, it just makes me think of winter and quiet times, and the soil is a bit more barren. There's the trees lose their leaves. It's just that kind of energy, right? And okay, we don't get a lot of that. Well, I don't get a lot of that here in the Whitsundays where I'm at in tropical Queensland. But like I said, it still gets cold. We still have the daylight, lesser daylight hours. And so, perfect time to bust out this deck. So this is the Interim Tarot, and this was created by Linda Benjamin. I believe you can still get this if you're fortunate to be overseas and not pay an arm and a leg for shipping. You can still get this, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. All right. So, again, let me just get into the habit of putting everything back. Otherwise, I gotta do it. I gotta do it afterwards, and everything becomes jumbled up, and I don't like that. Okay. Now, I've featured this deck in the past quite a bit, so I'm not gonna spend too much time on it. It is the Urban Incantations Tarot by Lenormand Narciso. So I use this deck a lot, to be honest, at other times of the year as well. I use this deck the most out of the decks that I'm featuring here. Nonetheless, it's imagery, choice of color, again, speaks to me of winter vibes, winter times, and I think it's a really, really nice deck to bring out on a cold evening when you've made yourself a cup of tea and sit down and the house is quiet and even outside everything is still because the temperature is going to drop below 15 degrees. Yeah, I really think he's done a really fantastic job with this deck. Not least because it's relatable, it's modern, you can just see yourself in some of these scenes, having done some of the the acts in here, the surroundings, people wear hoodies and like modern gear, and I don't know, I think, and yes, we've got pills and substance abuse and like, yeah, modern work environments, skyscrapers and offices up high and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I really dig this deck. I really rate it. I work with it, like I said, fairly regularly. I have done readings with this client work. It works really well for that as well, but it's also a really nice deck to pull out in wintertime. So this is the Urban Incantations by Lenormand Narciso. Next up, and again, a deck I don't use a lot. I did do a review on this one, so I'll link any decks you see here. If I've done a review, I will link them. This is the new Immortals, and perhaps a bit of a strange choice, but again, a deck I don't use often. And I've actually thought that most of these decks, the tarot decks at least, I don't use a lot, and I wonder if that's because of the color choice. Because as soon as we get to mid-August here, which is about a month away, as soon as I get to that time, everything starts heating up, and by September, gosh, it's already, I mean, the overnight lows, you'll still get an overnight lows of 15, 16 degrees Celsius, but daytime highs are mid to high 20s, and it starts ramping up from there on. The heat really just embalms everything around. And I think because of that, I'm kind of drawn to decks that reflect that. I don't know. But I will say that I do have a second part to this winter decks, which are my kind of like cozy and comforting decks. But I didn't want to lump them in with these decks because the cozy and comforting decks, while perfect for winter, are also decks that I gravitate towards and I use quite regularly throughout all seasons. So that will be like kind of like a part 2 that I'll do after this. So anyway, this is created by an artist from Brooklyn by the name of Madeline McLaughlin. I think this is the first edition that I have. And I believe there was a second edition. And it seems like they both sold out, at least from what I can tell online. So it's a collage art deck. And initially in my tarot journey, I stayed away from collage decks. And I kind of wish I hadn't, because there's some out of print ones now that I really wish I'd gotten earlier. But that's life. You change, the world changes, it is what it is. So when I started getting into collage type decks, this was one of the earlier ones that I saw, and it's not that old. I think this came out in, gosh, hang on, 1 second. Doesn't say. All right, never mind. I will have to check that out. I'm not sure when it came out, but I remember getting this a few years back. Like this is, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, something like that. And I was just drawn to just the way that she's blended different elements together in ways that I would never think of doing. Because in my mind, I would think it wouldn't work. And I think that's the great thing about artists, is that they see beyond that, I suppose. And it does work, right? As you can tell from some of these cards. Like, I just think it's quirky, and I think it's incongruous to me, but yet it all blends into some sort of cohesive image. So the reason this is like a winter deck for me, again, is purely like I think the color palette tends more towards that. Now it does have color, as you can tell, but I don't know, to me the predominant vibe that I'm getting from it is more like a wintry kind of a vibe. And I understand that not everyone would agree with that, but that's just, you know, it's just me. It's just kind of how I feel about some of these decks and the space that my head's at. So yeah, I think, I don't know, I only get this out around the winter months, rarely sometimes at other times of the year, but to me it's really more of a rare winter deck, and I'm glad I've kept it because, again, I don't use it often, but when I do, I'm like, oh, I've got this in my collection, and this is fantastic. So, anyway, this is the new Immortals. Okay. Next up, where did I put the lid? I've got my Oracle decks. First up is the Faceted Garden. So, I love this Oracle deck. You know, I've only gotten into Oracles in the last couple of years. It's like I deliberately shunned them for so long that by the time I awoke to the Oracle world, I was just blown away. I'm like, oh, so they're not all cliche, generic, superficial rubbish. And I know that sounds so judgy. I am quite judgy sometimes. And you've got to admit, there is a lot of rubbish in the Oracle world. But because I shunned all of it, then it meant I missed out on these kind of amazing Oracle decks, this being one of them in my opinion, the Faceted Garden Oracle. And it also means that now, if I try and get something from overseas, I have to sell my kidney, just about. Yeah, this is by Claire Mack, 2020. Very much, to me, the vibe of this deck is wintry. That's the guidebook. Let me just put that away. So, gosh, I love this deck so much. I mean, again, a collage type work, I think. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I have no words. I'm in love. The keywords, choices of keywords and their meanings. Yeah. I work with this deck on occasion, and every time it is a really beautiful, in-depth experience, and it just makes me connect to the energy of our world in its totality, not just, that is a card, put it aside. So not just like plants and trees, although it's got flora and fauna, but it's also got crystals, and it's got a bit of that kind of celestial vibe about it, and like rocks and barren landscapes at times, and like everything, you know, everything is contained within this And the color choice, again, to me, lends itself more towards that introspective winter time. At least to me. Again, it's very personal, isn't it? The decks that call to you at different times of the year and the reasons why they do so. But so I do use this at other times too. But it's color choices. You know, if you're really looking for like a deck that's like a wintry kind of a vibe to it, highly recommend this. So this is the Faceted Garden Oracle by Claire Mack. So nice sturdy box. Yeah, really nicely done, and gilding on the edges. It's got a really nice shimmery silver gilding. And then the other oracle that only came into my life last month. I had to bite the bullet and get this. I had to bite the bullet and pay exorbitant shipping. I knew the moment I saw it, I went, something, this is a forever deck for me. I mean, half my collection, I could say it's forever decks, but the Death Duela Oracle is truly something else. And it's a winter deck, in my opinion. It fits the energy of winter, not just because of the name and the ethos behind it. You know, winter is very much a time of death and dying. It's not to say that winter is not a wonderful season, but if you think along the lines of our collective history, if you are not prepared for winter, if you live in those areas where winter is proper winter and you're not prepared for it, you would perish. So, the Death Duela Oracle, completely different oracle deck to anything else that's out there, in my opinion. It's got this really, let me see if I can capture it. It's got this amazing embossed, I believe you can call it, or golden embossing. So these lines are actually, like, you can actually feel them. They're pressed into the card. It's not just on the, it's not just painted on, is what I'm trying to say. It's actually got a bit of a indentation in the card, as does the outline on the back and this dot in the middle. I mean, I just love it. Oh my god. I'm never letting go of this oracle deck. And the other thing I love about it is the keywords are just quite different, all right? Like, you've got keywords like surrender, which are more common ones, but it covers lots of aspects of life or lots of circumstances. And this is a photographic deck that was done using, I think, something called double exposure, if I'm not wrong, which I could be, because I don't know much about it. So it's got, to me, it's got like a layered kind of a feel in a lot of cards, like this one. It's got, I don't know if you've ever been in a snowy landscape and walked across it at certain times of the day, or even at night. There's something about the snow and the reflections and the shadows and the trees and everything. It kind of like, I feel like that's in this deck. There's a bit of that in this deck. It's sort of primal, you know? But it contains aspects of modern life, like the spanner there, and there's bits and bobs throughout it that remind you that this isn't just out in the wilderness somewhere. This is very much in our world. Oh gosh, I'm just gonna let the images speak for themselves. And I love how throughout you've got some of these cards that are kind of like diffuse, with not much detail going on. Like you just allow yourself to float in this amniotic color experience. I don't know how else to put it. Yeah, so I this really needs, I need to do a bit of an in-depth walkthrough with this deck, otherwise we'll be here all day. You know, words like the abyssal plane. I love that. Absolutely love that. Something different, malleable. Calcination. I had to look up calcination. But then you've also got the sun, but look at it. It's, oh, goodness. So anyway, for me, back to the subject matter, I feel that this is very much a winter deck. The overall color palette, the photographic layering, the choice of materials, both human and natural. Yeah, everything about it to me is a winter deck, and it arrived about a month ago. Hasn't left my desk. To be honest, I love it so much that I think I'll continue working with it throughout spring, summer, and beyond. So that's the Death Duela Oracle. This was created by, oh come on, Theodore Saint, 2022. Ships from the States. I had no problem with shipping. It arrived and everything, but the cost made me cry a little bit. Finally, the last two decks, and these are my Lenormand decks. So I've got Claire de Lune and I've got the Melissa, which I keep in this wooden box. Claire de Lune, I got this year, I think, and I've worked with it fairly consistently in the beginning just to get used to it, and then I put it away, and then I just brought it out in the last month again. This is a winter deck for me because it's, again, I feel like the color choices have a lot to answer for when choosing, you know, decks. I kind of feel like this predominance of black and silver and white is, to me, very much winter time, introspection time, quiet time, self time, cups of tea time, all of that good stuff. So that's the, you know, I think this deck fits in with that really, really well. I'm very, very glad I got this. I got the second hand again because I can't obtain things from overseas and pay for shipping anymore. Do any of you sit there and think incredulously where we're at in our world in the moment? Because I do. I mean, the thought that, like, I always knew that, you know, shipping is an extravagant thing in many ways, but anyway, I'm digressing. But I think now it's gone to the point where it's just prohibitive. So yes, so this is the Claire de Lune, and if the artwork, if you haven't looked at this deck before and the artwork kind of speaks to you a little bit and it's a little bit familiar, this was created by Anna Turian. So she did, oh, it escapes me. I think there's one called Tarot of Echoes, and there's another one that Bone Stone and Earth Flesh, that I'll forever regret not getting it on Kickstarter when it was on Kickstarter. You know, such is life. And finally, up last is my Melissa Lenormand, the very first deck that I ever acquired. Now this is out of print. I keep it in this little Russian wooden box someone gave me because it fits in there perfectly. And not a Lenormand I read with often, although I've got to say my Lenormand practice is still in the learning stages. I did close my other Lenormand channel. It was basically doing like detective kind of stuff, and it the very last reading I did was on someone who went missing, and the reading was, my interpretation wasn't right, and unfortunately that person was not found alive, to put it that way. And that kind of, yeah, I'm digressing here, but I decided to take a break from that. I just thought, you know, it's not right, and yeah. Anyhow, so this is, of course, a winter Lenormand because it kind of takes me back to that time just before winter arrives, in a way. This takes me back to my childhood in Romania and Eastern Europe, and you know, things get a bit muddy, the rains, and I don't know, it's just got that kind of cold communist color palette. I don't know. I love this deck. I don't mean to say it's a bad deck. I absolutely love this deck. I'm so glad I managed to obtain this when Melissa Hill, her name was at the time. I believe she might have changed it now, when she did it. And ever since then, I've always associated this deck with winter, with kind of like very late autumn, just before winter arrives. It's a really busy Lenormand, so I don't use it a lot for readings because of that. I need my Lenormand cards to be simple and not have too much in them, but now and then I want something different, and I bust this out, and it's absolutely lovely to work with because it's so unique. And anyhow, this is the Melissa Lenormand. I haven't seen anyone work with this deck. I did do a review of it, so I'll link that in the description box below if you're interested. But for now, this concludes my winter decks collection. I know for those of you like the rest of the world, you're in the midst of summer, sweating, and having lots of chill drinks probably. But here we have, you know, a couple more weeks of cold weather, and then things will start warming up. So our winter is really brief, really here. I mean, the days aren't really winter. The days are, like I said, we'll get low to mid 20, like 25 degrees Celsius. I think today might be 26 or something. I mean, that's not winter. That's a summer's day in New Zealand and most parts of the world. But anyway, so I'm making the most of it while I can. But as someone who doesn't like the cold and loves summer, I'm glad it's a short phase for me. Well, thank you so much. If you're still here, thank you for watching to the end, and thank you for being here and supporting my channel. And until my next video, take care.